is going on, YouTube? What is going on, Kansas City? And what is going on, everybody? And welcome to the Beat of KC. Ladies and gentlemen, I have the privilege. This is absolutely phenomenal to have Michael Darcy on. His channel is absolutely killing it. He's loves Kansas City sports, obviously, as he covers that nonstop on his channel. Michael, appreciate you coming on. Thank you.
I appreciate you guys having me on. I really do.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Well, obviously, this is Kansas City. This is Kansas City sports. Let's jump right into it. I've been covering the draft. I know you've covered the draft tremendously as well. I'm going to start out. What's your favorite draft pick?
You know, there's two ways to go about it. It's the player that I think is going to have the most impact, and then everyone's kind of got that sleeper pick, that player that they really like, but they don't think that he could be the best day one. I think that the most impactful players, Creed Humphrey. But my favorite pick and a sneaky good pick was Cornell Powell. I think that his route running ability is going to allow him to get some foot in this offense. And I'm not saying that he's going to have some monster impact, but for what he saw, for what he did at Clemson, it just shows that he can be a good receiver at the next level. So I think that Cornell Powell's a player to keep an eye on.
Awesome, man. That's super, super excited. I know from a receiver perspective, I figured they would touch on them in the draft. But when it came to Cornell Powell, I was like, this is kind of a sneaky steal, honestly. The things that he was able to accomplish while he was at Clemson. But one of the things that I kind of touched on in my video is the fact that think of the reps he was getting and the amount of practice with elite talent around him. So I think that is going to help him translate into the NFL. What do you think about that?
Yeah, and it's such a low risk, or high reward kind of situation because we drafted somebody in the 5th round. I know we got guys like Tyreek Hill back in the 5th round like a long time ago, but realistically, this guy is coming in fighting for like the number 3 wide receiver job at best. He's got very low pressure on him, but I think that he's coming from an environment in which he was not the best receiver on his team. I mean, Amari Rodgers, he got drafted, I think it was the 3rd round this year. He was the number 1 on that team.
Yeah.
So he kind of knows how to fit and do his job in an offense. And that's why I think he's going to be so good because he can kind of complement Mahomes well and fit well as like a number 2 or maybe a 3 wide receiver.
For sure, for sure. So that kind of goes into the next thing. We are familiar with additions this year. We saw how the offensive line was. I've done a couple videos now covering the offensive line. The addition of Trey Smith, Orlando Brown. What is your favorite offensive lineman addition outside of Orlando Brown? Because obviously that's the flashy one. That's the go-to.
Yeah.
Like, what are you most excited for from this offensive line outside of Orlando Brown?
Honestly, this is going to be kind of a curveball. My favorite offensive line piece that we have not seen yet is Lucas Niang. That dude coming out of the draft last year, 3rd round pick, he got out last year. I was like, oh, dang. I mean, I really wanted to see what he could do. And I think that he only got better over the offseason. I know a lot of people were questioning, well, is he going to be healthy? Is he conditioned enough? He wasn't around the team for the past year. We just got done with, I think it was rookie minicamp, and he returned because he technically is a rookie because he opted out last year. He looks pretty good. And I think that looking at right tackle right now, you got Lucas Niang. You have Mike Remmers, possibly Kyle Long. I think that he's more of a guard. I think that Lucas Niang is going to win that starting job, and I think he's going to be a guy that is going to solidify the right side of that line. I mean, you look at it in his college career, Chase Young said that he was the best tackle that he went up against in college, and that dude was a menace last year.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's absolutely epic to not only hear that, but to think like I started thinking to myself the age of this offensive line going forward. I mean, we drafted Trey Smith, like you said, Creed Humphrey. You got Orlando Brown. Now the question is, do they extend him? I mean, we hope they do extend him because he's 24 years old. But the age of this offensive line going forward is tremendous. And one thing that I hit on that I was going to ask you is, how do you think those young guys coming into this system are going to learn and develop with the offensive linemen that they brought in? I mean, you got Joe Tooney, you got Kyle Long. I mean, you have some of these veterans who have played with Patrick Mahomes before. I mean, what kind of impact do you think that's going to provide those young guys?
Well, the rookies are very fortunate because if it came down to it, none of them would actually have to play. You got Austin Blythe in case Creed Humphrey needs some time to develop. I don't think that he will, but just in case, he can be a backup. Mike Remmer's obviously a right tackle. And you got guys like LDT who's coming back from
Yep.
helping on the front lines of COVID. So I do think that they're going to have an advantage of not necessarily having to play right away, but they're also, like you said, they're going to get to learn behind guys like Kyle Long, who I know he's coming out of retirement, but he was a premier guard in this league. Joe Tooney was probably the biggest addition, the biggest guard on the market this offseason. You brought him in on a massive contract.
Yeah.
The Chiefs rookies are going to be able to learn from these veterans and just some of the very most talented guards in the league, which is it's good to see.
Yeah. And perfect, man. That, I think what this kind of transitions to too as well is, you know, the entire offensive line was, we'll say, revamped. I mean, truly, if you look at it, it was, and it's been solidified. I mean, one of the biggest pieces that people kind of forget about because of how bad the Super Bowl really was from an overall offensive line perspective, we were running the football. I mean, if you look at the first half, we ran, I mean, Clyde actually ran pretty well, and they were open on the Tampa Bay side saying, like, I don't know why you guys weren't running the football more. With this offensive line, what do you think that does for Clyde, now Jerick McKinnon, Daryl Williams, and maybe even we sneak Noah Gray back there? What do you think about that?
Well, I think that the offensive line, I've seen a lot of comparisons between this offensive line and like the 2003 Chiefs offensive line with all those just absolute beasts. I don't know if that's even fair to say at this point. I know that on paper this looks good and it should be good, but again, we got to wait and see what they're like when the pads are on.
Yeah.
But I know you've touched on this in a previous video. Patrick Mahomes could have the best season he's ever had.
Yeah.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to get a bigger part in the offense. He was hurt a little bit last year, but also he's developed another year. Andy Reid doesn't like to give the offense or give the rookie running back a major role in an offense when you've already got guys like Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill that can kind of take over the bulk of the workload. To your question, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, if he gets more carries behind this offensive line, he's going to have a chance to rush for, I'd say, even 1,000 yards and maybe get like 1,500 from all-purpose yards.
Yeah, I completely 100% agree with that. I really do. And I think what's nice is the fact that he's being complimented with not a Le'Veon Bell. I mean, as crazy as that sounds, I don't think that there was conflict in the running back room, but I do think that there was that mindset on the outside a little bit. And I think it definitely was exposed because Le'Veon really never translated to what we as fans and really, what we thought he was going to be. And I just don't think that that's what Clyde needed. Even though I'm sure that they were probably good pals and everything like that. I just don't think Clyde needs that going in there. So do you think, Jerick McKinnon is going to complement him very well?
Yeah, and Jerick McKinnon, honestly, I did a little bit of research on him coming in because it didn't really pique my interest at the time because we cut Damian Williams earlier in the offseason. I wasn't too happy about that.
Yeah.
And I just thought that why would you bring in a guy in Jerick McKinnon it's going to be a solid backup, but Damian Williams could have been a solid starter in this league and an above average backup.
Yeah.
But I almost wonder if it leads to the competition aspect as if Clyde would have felt like his job was going to be threatened. And you brought up Le'Veon Bell earlier. I would almost argue that give him this offensive line next year. I mean, Le'Veon Bell's got that style of just kind of waiting for the plays to develop and waiting to find a gap.
Yeah.
This offensive line, you're going to get a lot more of a gap. But I also think that kind of shows you Clyde rushed pretty well last year, considering how the offensive line wasn't all that good.
Yeah.
But I would say that Jerick McKinnon and Clyde are going to be a good 1-2 punch. Expect McKinnon to get a lot more opportunities to catch the ball, though.
Yeah,
like in the
sure.
slot.
Yeah, for sure. And that's what I think is going to be super, super unique about this. And that's why, that's why I wanted to ask you early on who your favorite pick was in this draft, because mine is hands down Noah Gray. I think that we're going to see him just extremely versatile in this offense. And I think that just unlocks yet again just a whole door for Andy Reid and just what the plays are going to consist of, because, I think he truly finally has that. If you look at Philadelphia, they have Zach Ertz and I can't remember who the other one actually.
Oh, I should know. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But those two combined right there, just the way their style is. And I think that it's just going to translate so well into this offense. And I look forward to Noah Gray because I think his stature, his size, they say don't compare him to Travis Kelce yet, which, you can't yet by no means.
Mhm.
But I think that his ability to plug into a slot, I've heard a lot of people say his blocking ability is absolutely incredible. And that's one thing that I'm excited to see too, because I think he can beat out Blake Bell. What do you think about him, becoming that number two?
Well, I think that the Chiefs obviously really like what they saw in Blake Bell because they traded up to get him. And
Yeah.
honestly, at the time, I was like, oh, we must have found somebody really good. I thought at the time maybe it's a receiver because we hadn't picked one yet. Maybe it was
Yeah.
another offensive lineman. The Noah Gray Travis Kelce comparison, even though it does seem a little bit outlandish now, I see it. And I've said it before in a video in the past. His ability to catch and run after the catch, his yards after the catch is insane. He's a bigger body guy. His blocking ability is going to need a little bit of work, but I think that he's going to be more of a guy that on third and fourth down, if you need that X receiver that you don't really have anymore because Sammy's gone, and
Yeah.
last year everybody's like, we need a bigger body receiver. This is like another Travis Kel. Okay, that's a harsh term. Another big body guy that can go out there and get a short yardage catch in a big time situation.
Yeah.
So I like Noah Gray a lot, and I think that he could very well beat out Blake Bell for that number 2 tight end.
Yeah, for sure. And I could see I immediately when I saw his highlight tape, I started thinking of that Cleveland playoff game where, it's what was it, third it was fourth down, I'm pretty sure. And Tyreek Hill runs that quick slant, Chad Henne steps
Mm,
back and just, I immediately thought that could have been a Noah Gray play, if I mean just right off there catching it and he's down. So I'm super excited about Noah. Now, this kind of leads me into the next thing. And you did a video yesterday. I did a video a couple days ago. We all know the hype is coming. It is for every NFL team. I mean, to hear Julio Jones is available. I mean, come on, ladies and gentlemen. Anybody wants Julio Jones. It's Julio Jones. But the big question is obviously money. What does it take? What are you willing to give up? Things like that. I know you did a video. Can you kind of recap just a little bit of
yeah.
what you put in that video?
You know, like you said, Julio Jones, who wouldn't want Julio Jones? He's the top 3 wide receiver in the game when he's healthy. A guy that is one of the best route runners. He's great at catching jump balls.
Yeah.
In that Super Bowl that they ended up losing, he made a couple incredible catches to just kind of show how talented he actually is. But here's what the problem is. His contract is outrageous. He's going to be making $23 million a year till 2023. Anyone that has to trade for him takes on that contract.
Yeah.
And I just think that the Chiefs don't have the capital, nor do they have the cap space to trade for Julio Jones. And even then, his injury history. I mean, last year he missed, I believe it was 5 or 6 games. He played 9 games last year. But I really don't think that for how old he is, his injury history, and his contract, it'd be worth bringing him in. I mean, it's a good move on paper, but I just don't think that it would work out very well on the field.
Yeah, I started thinking, I put that video together, and a lot of it was like my excitement going into it. And I did definitely put in a little bit of thought to what it would take to get Julio. And I started thinking there are a lot of pieces that would have to happen. I mean, from a cap perspective, no question, the Honey Badger would have to either extend, restructure, whatever it may be, but hopefully restructure. But then you're talking about potentially having to move on from another player because of what that even does to the cap. And then I started thinking, well, maybe it would be something that you would have to incorporate with that trade. But then it's like, would they then in return want a first? I think that there's a lot that would really kind of require that to happen. And I do really like the team that we have. Julio Jones would be amazing. And my biggest counter to a lot of things is the fact that if he came to our offense, yes, he's your number 2. But I don't see he would have to play all the time. Now, would he want to? Probably. But to keep him healthy and keep his motor going the way he is, he may not necessarily have to be on the field at the entire time because of the depth we have at receiver and what we can expect from some of these players. So that was one thing I was thinking, but I completely understand your take on it. And I like the opposite perspective. I do think that a lot of people are hyped because of the name. and we've seen what he's done before. And so I like the fact that you were able to be like, hey, look, it's Julio Jones, but maybe not so much. So that's absolutely awesome, and I enjoyed the video for sure, and I wanted to let you know that. So
Appreciate it.
yeah, for sure. So let me ask you this: we do run a lot of nickel on the defense. We go out and get Mike Hughes. We have L'Jarius Sneed. DeAndre Baker is going to be coming back. We're really kind of covering that secondary. What do you think about our secondary? Because I have actually got a decent amount of questions, and a lot of the people in the comment section feel that our secondary is still not the best. I tend to argue because I like what we have from a depth perspective now in the secondary. What are your thoughts on that?
I think we're one piece away.
Okay.
We could go into the season with the current secondary that we have. The Hughes trade was a big one. We got guys like you said. I mean, L'Jarius Sneed, Baker's coming back. Travis Ward, a guy that we kind of all forget about.
Yeah.
I think you bring back Bashaud Breeland, who is yet to be signed. You do that and you're fine. I mean, for continuity, why not? I mean, he hasn't gotten signed yet. You don't really have that number 2 corner, that defined number 2. Hughes is a slot corner. He played like 30% of his snaps in the slot. I think that they're probably going to put him there, but with him, it's a question of if he can stay healthy.
Yeah.
So you got to get more guys. I mean, it's unfortunate, but to say it in these words, for the secondary, you just got to have bodies. We got to have as many bodies as possible, because you're one injury away from having Rashad Fenton start outside. I mean, it's harsh, but you just got to have depth, and they're trying to build up depth. I think that they're probably 1 or 2 pieces away.
Yeah, for sure. And I do like how the Chiefs have kind of honestly have that mindset now where it's like, hey, we're going to create as much depth as possible. And I do think that they're doing well with the secondary in that aspect. I do think that they're starting to do that with the offensive line, to almost to the point where we may have to see a cut or a trade at some point. So I do really like what they're doing with that. Now, with the linebacker position, we draft Nick Bolton. We have Anthony Hitchens, Willie Gay's coming back from an injury. But outside of that, you got Ben Neiman, Dorian O'Daniel, who's kind of a hybrid. What are your thoughts on the linebacker slot, the position?
With all these positions, if someone goes down, you're going to be in trouble. I mean, the offensive line is kind of an exception, but we saw what happened last year when we lost our starting tackles. You just kind of fall. I mean, last year we had Damian Wilson, who's now in Jacksonville, I believe. Willie Gay, who you drafted last year, he didn't play a lot. Ben Neiman coming back. I'm not a Ben Neiman fan, but it is what it is. And then Anthony Hitchens. So you could make the argument that we got a little bit better with the drafting of Nick Bolton, but I don't really know what else you can do for depth, because it's like, were you just going to draft another linebacker in the draft for depth? I mean, you're just kind of at a point where also roster spot. You don't have as many roster spots to just put extra linebackers in there. So I do think that for what we have, we're solid. And I think that Nick Bolton's going to shore up some things and stop in the run. But we don't have the necessary depth that is if we lost Anthony Hitchens or Willie Gay or both of them, that we could rebound from that. But I would make the argument that no team could. So, I mean, we're just kind of out of luck there if that happens.
And I think that that's a reason why I'm going to go back and look to make sure why, if Spags had ran a lot of nickel before he even came to Kansas City. And the reason I say that is just, I mean, it makes sense for the division we're in. Some of the opponents that we play obviously are slinging the football around. So you want that extra, corner or safety out there, which then reduces you down to only 2 linebackers. So I think that may be why they potentially do that. And then it's like, it gives that opportunity for Bolton to kind of learn and get groomed, and then come in and maybe play on those running downs and play downhill. But then you also get like Ben Neiman, unfortunately, because I'm right there with you, out there maybe in coverage situations. And I do feel that Dorian O'Daniel is on the fence of making this team. And so it'll just be interesting to see how that linebacker position really develops out. The final one before we transition sports, because I've been following you for a while. What do you think about this defensive line? I'm beyond excited with our D tackle position. Now, when we're talking about the DN position, I'm a little, what are your thoughts on that?
I will tell you the defense bend group. I mean, Frank Clark just could be a little bit better. I mean, we're paying him all this money. I understand that he's never going to end up living up to that contract, but he's got to do something.
Yeah.
I know he's athletic and he's got the talent. It's just he can't put it all together in the regular season. In the playoffs, I think he has the most sacks in Chiefs history, but he
Yeah.
just can't do it in the regular season. So if he can step things up a little bit, I'm not a huge Frank Clark fan, but if he can step it up, I actually think that the biggest addition this offseason that really nobody's talking about is Jerron Reed. Jerron
Yes.
Reed, the nose tackle, he's going to open things up inside, and it's going to allow Frank Clark to have an easier chance at getting around. They might put Chris Jones on the end, which kind of solves your problems there. And I think it was 2018 when he had those, I think it was 19 sacks or something ridiculous like that. Maybe it was 16. But he played a lot of those snaps on the edge.
Yeah.
So I think that you really can't double team everybody on this line. So Frank Clark might be the weak link, but you got Jerron Reed, who's going to kind of force the line his way, and you got to double team Chris Jones or he's going to cause havoc. So it's just like you can't stop everybody. And even though we might not have the most athletic guys, with the picks like Kando and Dana last year, they'll be able to do some rotational stuff at the end, and I think that they'll be okay.
Yeah, I think that's what's going to be amazing because, like you said, Reed, if you go back and look at his stats, the guy gets sacks as a D tackle just like Chris Jones does. And that's going to be pretty crazy. And I do think that that helps Frank Clark a little bit because then they are a little bit familiar with each other I do believe they played with each other in Seattle.
They
So I
not only
do.
played really quickly. They not only play with each other in Seattle. They both had career years.
Yeah. And so that was a no brainer. The only thing that I was a little bit upset about, which I think is what it is. I wish it would have been more of like a 2-year deal and not just a 1-year deal. I get maybe from his agent side, because if he does have another career year with this defensive lineman, he's going to earn some money. So that
Mm-hmm.
makes sense. But I just wish it was a 2-year deal just to make sure we had that shored up. So, but now I'm excited to talk to you about this. I know you do live streams for the Kansas City Royals.
I do.
And it's been a little bit frustrating as of late. I've watched your last couple ones, and it's like you want to pull your hair out.
Yep.
I got the game on as we're talking. Um, I it's tough. I'm a diehard baseball fan. I'm a huge Kansas City Royals fan. I've played baseball ever since I was a little kid. And we've had our exciting years. We went to the World Series. We won the World Series. We've done a lot. It's just I get what you're saying when it comes to frustration. What is your biggest beef right now with the Kansas City Royals?
Um, honestly, as I don't even want to say we're playing terrible baseball, but I think from a fan's perspective, you want to win as often as possible. I kind of seem to forget that this is really the first actual year of the new regime. I mean, we
Yeah.
had the team basically sold when David Glass passed away. They sold it before he passed away, but you got a new owner in John Sherman. And honestly, coming off of a COVID year, which you lost money in that year, he's really done a pretty good job. I mean, Carlos Santana is signing,
Yes.
trading for Andrew Benintendi. You signed guys like Salvi. You gave him a monster extension. Hunter Dozier. Mike Minor was another guy that you brought in again. But I honestly, I can't really complain too much because realistically, coming into the season, I thought that we could lose 100 games.
Yeah.
And the fact I think that we're 20-23 right now. So the fact that we're a quarter through the season and only 3 games below 500, it's upset as a baseball fan. And after we saw great baseball on 14 and 15,
Yep.
so it's hard to see a product that's not up to that. But keep in mind, we're coming off of the last 2 real seasons of 100-loss baseball. So
Yep.
honestly, I think that they're probably going to finish around 500 this year. And I think that my biggest, I guess, complaint would be that what would be my biggest complaint? That maybe you didn't bring up Bobby Witt because I think that he'd be ready, but that's honestly just my personal opinion.
Yeah. No, I get it. My honest kind of a little soapbox here. I'm not going to go too long, but Dayton Moore often goes back to players that have been within the organization, and he's familiar with which is rightfully so. But Wade Davis should not be in my opinion, in the bullpen. Greg Holland should not be in the bullpen, in my opinion. And if we honestly were doing the things that we were doing when we were actually winning ball games, then that, yes. But we're not winning ball games consistently. We went on a 10 game, almost 11 game skid there. I think it's time to shake things up. See what you got down in the minors. It's nice to see Kelvin Gutierrez up here absolutely raking right now. I think that shows you that you do have the depth there. I don't see why you would take him out. I get you paid Dozier, and but Dozier was hitting like a $150.
Yeah, he
So
hasn't been the same since he got COVID last year.
yeah, and so I mean, you got Gutierrez who's literally up here doing his thing. I'm over Mondi. I might be one of the ones that is the only person that feels like that. I'd be all right with, like you said, seeing what Bobby Witt's got. I get why maybe they didn't, because they want to
Yeah.
save some of those years. But if Monty comes back and is subpar as well, I'm his contract's coming close to the end. It's time to go. So I'm excited for some of these pitchers. Senior dealt today, looking fantastic. Lynch unfortunately came up, didn't do the best, but he's one of the things I liked about that, and that's one of the questions I was going to ask you is, he comes up and he sees what professional baseball is like. He gets to experience, hey, this is serious. Like going into it, I'm sure he was like, this is serious, but he gets to actually experience it, go down and work on something. What do you think about, what we saw from Lynch?
He had a couple really good outings, and he started off very fantastic,
Yeah.
but it kind of started to teeter off towards the end. And I think in one game he gave up like 8 runs or something like that. It kind of got away from him. But with all these young pitchers, it's a learning curve. You're gonna have to learn. Brady Singer kind of did it on the fly last year, but remember Chris Bubich was a starter last year, and he got sent down. And I was like, oh, we might not see him again for a while, but he came back up and he's been pitching pretty well too. So I really think that it's only a matter of time before guys like Jackson Kowar, Asa Lacy's going to be a big name coming up here
Yeah.
soon. You've got, I think it was the 7th pick in this year's draft. I've seen some rumors that Kumar Rocker, like one of the Vanderbilt pitchers, might slip. I don't think that he would, but you're going to have pitching. And
Yeah,
as long as you can develop them the right way, in which we've done so far, I think that you're going to have a chance to win in the future. And we really didn't have great pitching in 14 and 15. But if you get guys like Brady Singer and Asa Lacy and some of the other guys in this rotation, Lynch is like a top 100 prospect. If
yep,
they start performing like we think that they can, this rotation is going to be a top 5 rotation in baseball.
for sure. Yeah, no question. And then I think his name's Alex Marsh. I've been Alec
Yeah,
Marsh.
I forgot about him completely, but we drafted him. I think it was in 2018 out
Throws
of
flames. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so we got guys, and Hernandez that he was up at the beginning of the year throws. He's probably. I think just the biggest thing moving forward. I wish we could focus on the pin. I get we have Jesse Hahn who's hurt, Kyle Zimmer's hurt, but I just wish we could really solidify. That's always been. I'm a huge Mike Matheny fan. I
Mhm.
think he's a very good players coach. I think he's very relatable. And I think when he got fired from the Cardinals, I think him coming to the organization, learning from the organization, really revamped his career. And I think that's my biggest excitement is Mike Matheny developing his players. My biggest knock is always has been how he's handled the bullpen. I don't think we have established, and I get like it's really kind of a mix up at times, but I don't think he's established a bullpen. Like, you know, maybe Stalmont is the only solidified thing is that that there's a good chance he's going to close a game, but you may see Zimmer in the 6th, but then you may see him in like the 8th another time, and it's just Zuber come in a different. And I just wish he would solidify a bullpen. What are your thoughts on that?
Josh Stalmont should be the closer. I know we lost a game, I think it was a week ago, when Wade Davis is my favorite Royals pitcher of all time. I still, when I
The
think of him, I think
cyborg.
of that 2015 game in the ALCS when he came in against the Blue Jays, clinched a World Series berth for us. I mean, the dude was ice, but at
Yes.
this point, he's just not the same. I
No.
think that Matheny's got to do a better job of kind of just establishing the roles. I know he says that he doesn't like to have defined roles so early, but you're a quarter through the season. Like you got to get something here going pretty soon. And Stalmont should be your closer. I think that I can't remember his name, but he debuted this year and he's been pitching very well. Just got his first win a couple of days ago.
Oh,
Um,
Jake Brentz.
Jake Brentz throws fire. I think that he'd be a good 7th inning guy.
Yeah.
Zuber, you mentioned, he's been pitching okay too. Maybe Chris Bubich comes out of the bullpen as well. I mean, you got to mix it up a little bit. But Dayton Moore's history of like bringing in older guys to kind of fit in the bullpen, it's not very good. I can't remember. We had a guy a couple years ago that was just horrendous. I can't even remember. But hopefully we start to see some of the younger guys come up. And like you said, I think that if we can get a bullpen down, this team just needs pitching at this point.
Yeah, and I mean that's what I feel honestly. What was carrying this, from the get go. There was a couple games. I think 3 games. You even said in one of your live streams. Like, I don't think we've scored a run in so many days. But I do think there early on, it felt like our offense was doing some things. And then it's like it's switched, almost like the teeter
Mhm.
just honestly just tilted. And it's weird seeing Whit Merrifield hitting like 250. It's nice to see Santana walking. But yeah, it'll be nice to just see a fully healthy, like Ben Attendee struggled in the beginning and now is just on fire. So I do think if we all start to see some things click, get the things rolling, I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, if we do finish a little bit better than I think. So I'm excited for the Kansas City Royals for sure.
Yeah,
So
there really isn't much complaints because, like I said, I kind of came into the season expecting we could lose 100 games.
yeah.
So if we win 80 to 85, I take that as a win. And next year is going to be a good year of baseball, I think.
For sure. And like you said too, if there's a way Kumar Rocker falls, they better be snatching him up quick. Because
It
oh my
bothers me
goodness.
that you can't trade up in the MLB draft. You're just stuck with it.
I'm glad you brought that up. That's one thing that I'm a big Trevor Bauer fan. I was even like a huge Bauer fan when he was in Cleveland. I think he does amazing for baseball. Last night he's out there striking guys on the mound and throwing swords into his pocket. I'm a huge Trevor Bauer fan, and that's one of the things that he's kind of talked on multiple times because he does a YouTube channel as well, and he is flawless with like it's amazing content. And one of the things he always mentioned is the fact that he was hoping that trades could happen at some point. And I do think that was something I heard recently too, with what really creates such hype around the NFL draft and how they're able to just hype something up where it's just picking players. And it's the fact that on the first night, you have so many trades and moves that are just going on. And I do think that that would just bring a lot more excitement to the baseball draft as well. Because, I mean, who's to say that Royals don't need trade up, a couple picks to get a Kumar Rocker
Hmm.
or go get a lighter or I mean, it would just be really cool. So I agree with if they could trade for sure.
Hmm.
So, well, man, I appreciate you. I really do thank you for coming on. Hopefully we can do this more. It means a ton. I'm just starting this YouTube channel out and it's going to be awesome. I'm looking forward to just covering everything and meeting new people. And you were definitely one that I wanted to touch base with first. So I appreciate you coming on.
I appreciate you guys having me. And like I said, if you ever need me, just let me know. And I learned to get on YouTube from a lot of the other bigger Chiefs YouTubers, and they kind of show me the ropes. So anything you need, just let me know.
Sounds good, man. Well, I appreciate it. And as always, guys, have a good one.